Well, if you're tired of Nintendo Switch 2 videos, buckle up because they're not going to slow down, but rather ramp up from here. There is no doubt that we are getting much closer to Nintendo ultimately launching this console. A lot of the reports are saying 2024, could be early or late 2024, but if that is to be believed, we should hear about this thing soon, and we now have not just rumors, insiders, or some kind of mysterious leak behind the scenes, but actually an official court document that has been leaked as part of the FTC versus Microsoft trial for the Activision Blizzard merger that clearly outlines in a PDF document next generation Switch from Nintendo, with Bobby Kotick meeting with President Shintaro Furukawa around it. There is at this point no denying the facts that Nintendo is absolutely ramping up to launch this thing, and they're contacting all of the big game devs / publishers to make sure that the support will be there early on in the console generation. We know that President Shintaro Furukawa is a businessman, and he's taking the transition to new hardware very seriously, to the point where he is directly hopping on calls with the decision makers at the top of the food chain for these companies and ensuring support for Nintendo's next generation console. This confirmation also does some very exciting things, such as confirming that it's a hybrid console, with it being named next generation Switch, although we don't know for sure that Switch will be the name Nintendo goes with for this console. Although I would say if it's a hybrid console again, and we are to believe that, it should probably just be called Nintendo Switch 2, or in a perfect world for me, Super Nintendo Switch. But in addition to the codename essentially being revealed for this thing as next generation Switch, at least internally, as far as what Nintendo is telling their developers about, there is also some more claims around the power of this console. And you probably remember, if you've been keeping up with all this stuff, that when the trial was going on, there was some claims that Bobby Kotick had said that it is more in line with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One consoles, which led a lot of people to go out there and say this is exactly as powerful as those, or not quite as powerful, or maybe even a little bit more powerful. And the reality is we still don't have clarity around that, but we do have official confirmation that that was said. And to first get on the same page with all the exact details, let's quickly hop over to The Verge and read through this detailed typed up article together. Activision was briefed on Nintendo's Switch 2 last year. Activision executives met with Nintendo in December to discuss plans for a next-generation Switch, which is described as closer to PS4 / Xbox One performance. Rumors of a Nintendo Switch 2 announcement have grown recently after reports of developer demos at Gamescom last month. Now we know that Activision was briefed on a next-generation Nintendo Switch last year thanks to internal emails from FTC v Microsoft case. Activision executives, including CEO Bobby Kotick, met with Nintendo executives in December 2022 to discuss a next-generation Switch. In an internal email chain, Chris Schnakenberg, if that's how you say it, head of Activision's platform strategy and partner relations, prepared a summary of the Switch NG, or Switch Next Generation, inside a document labeled NG Switch Draft.pdf. The document is heavily redacted, but it does reveal that performance of the next generation Switch will be close to that of the PS4 and Xbox One. Given the closer alignment to Gen 8 platforms in terms of performance and our previous offerings on PS4 / Xbox One, it is reasonable to assume we can make something compelling for the next-gen Switch as well. It would be helpful to secure early access to development hardware prototypes and prove that out nice and early. Now, you can then also see a direct screenshot of the email in question where it says privileged and confidential. Bobby, please find attached exec briefing for our call with Furukawa-san tomorrow. The executive briefing summary and preparation materials were then sent to Kotick ahead of the December 15th meeting with Nintendo CEO and President Shintaro Furukawa. Kotick went on to testify in the FTC versus Microsoft hearing that he regretted not bringing Call of Duty to the Switch. This led to questioning from both the FTC's lawyers and Judge Jacqueline Scott Corley about Call of Duty on Switch. The FTC revealed that the agreement Microsoft signed with Nintendo also purports to bring a future Call of Duty game to a future Nintendo console if Microsoft's Activision Blizzard deal is approved by regulators. Now, there's a lot to unpack there, because while it sounds like, yes, Activision Blizzard and CEO Bobby Kotick have some kind of indication of what this console is capable of, it also is revealed later on during the trial that indeed they don't know what the specifications are of the console at that point in time. Keep in mind, this was back in December of 2022, so well before the recent Gamescom dev kit showcases, and there's no telling that the suggestion that closer to in line with Gen 8 performance actually means less powerful or more powerful, or maybe just right around the same power. In fact, when questioned directly, Kotick said we need to see the exact specifications of this thing to know if we're going to be able to really bring something meaningful to it, but he made it pretty clear that he regretted not doing Call of Duty on the Nintendo Switch with how vastly successful that was, and no doubt if this merger does go through, there's actually a legal binding agreement that Microsoft is going to support Call of Duty on Nintendo consoles for at least 10 years, and that's likely not going to start until something like next-gen Switch is available, although we have heard Microsoft say that they would actually be able to get a version of Call of Duty running on the Switch that is available today, so that very well could be going on in the background, especially when you consider that things like Call of Duty Mobile are a thing. It's possible, but the more exciting thing to me about this particular story, besides of all of the great claims that we've heard recently that dev kits are running DLSS, that this thing is pulling off some fantastic looking games with very short load times. In addition to all of that stuff flying around, we now know that Nintendo is proactively approaching major publishers and developers to get them on board with putting out content on the next gen Switch earlier rather than later. And I personally think that as a Nintendo Switch gamer, that is going to be a great news scenario for all of us, because it is giving the devs the time that they need to start to ramp up on projects and hopefully get a really banger launch lineup whenever we finally see this thing confirmed and revealed to us by Nintendo themselves, and that very well could happen as soon as the end of this year. I don't personally think that. I think that the March 2024 rumblings that were being talked about at Gamescom were likely the reveal of the console, because turning around and launching it at this point in March 2024 just feels really fast to me. But there is always a possibility with Nintendo that they do maybe the shortest turnaround ever and they reveal it in January and launch it in March, or that March date that devs were hearing about could be the official reveal of the console, and we then build into the later half of 2024 for an official launch late summer, early fall, really ramping things up and targeting it being on shelves in stores by the holiday shopping season. And that's personally where I am kind of setting my expectations. Now, besides this Switch 2 story today, there's another story floating around that we will deep dive in a different video, most likely tomorrow, because I do want to spend more time on it, and it has to do with a major game potentially being in development for this next gen console. So it's official as far as I'm concerned. Nintendo is absolutely moving things in the background and getting devs on board. There's no denying it at this point. These are court documents, not something that's being faked. And The Verge just happened to get their hands on it to go ahead and leak it out as a story. So we now have some official code names and performance claims to walk away with and consider as we get closer to the official reveal from Nintendo. But I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, your personal thoughts and opinions around how this all unfolds from here. Do you think that yes, indeed, Activision Blizzard and other developers and publishers have been approached by Nintendo, and this was likely one of many meetings? Because that's kind of what I'm thinking here. And what do you think this means for third-party support in general for the next generation hardware? And are you happy or relieved to hear that this is more in line with the power of Gen 8 consoles being the PS4 and Xbox One? Or is that more concerning to you that maybe it needs to be more powerful, more in line with like a Series S, which, keep in mind, it very well still could be with things like DLSS and other ways that Nintendo can do to drive that kind of performance without just having the raw specs to support it. But regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before we leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.